Welcome back to another math video here at Math Rocks with Mr. Cox. This video is going to center on functions, like this one, f of x equals 5x plus 12, or perhaps a function like this, g of x equals 6 minus 4x squared. And we're going to be looking at questions like this. Find f of negative 2, or perhaps something like this. Find x if g of x equals 7. So if this seems rather daunting right now on how you would approach these problems here, stick around, watch the video, and you'll never feel that way again. Let's get it on! So before we actually go ahead and take a look at some of the questions you saw in the intro, let's just talk about how to evaluate functions in general. One way to approach it is to think of it as like some sort of function machine here, where you put in an input, and depending on what you put in the machine, something comes out. So for instance over here, suppose I was putting an x equals 2 into the machine, and the rule was 3x plus 5. What would come out is whatever 3 times 2 plus 5 is, in which case that would be 6 plus 5, or 11. So that would be where we're given the input and we need to find the output. Sometimes though we're given the output, like in this case 7, and we have to figure out, well, what would x need to be in order to get a 7 to come out? Well, that answer would be 4, because if we were to say x equals 4, 2 times 4 would be 8, and then minus 1 would give us our 7. So in this case here, the answer would have been x equals 4. So that's kind of one way to approach this here. Now we're going to look at the more complicated mathematical way. All right, so what I have here is I have three different functions, as you can see. I have f of x equals 11 minus 3x. I have g of x equals f times the absolute value of x plus 4. And then I have h of x equals 2x squared plus 4x. And the first thing I wanted to point out is I'm saying f of x. So I'm going to write that out here in English, f of x. So don't mistake this as like f times x like we normally do in math. It's really just function notation here, so we just say f of x. The other thing I wanted to point out is that really, I know it looks weird because you're used to seeing these equations where it's always y equals blah, 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 and y equals something, and y equals something. And it's kind of the same thing here, but the reason why we're doing the function notation is that when I say find f of 4, it tells me which of the equations to go to. It tells me go to the f equation. Or if I say find h of negative 3, it tells me to go to this equation. And had I just done y's instead, you wouldn't really know which equation to use. So this is a way to specify which of these three functions we're going to use. So let's go ahead and take a look at this first problem here. And it says find f of 4. So inside the parentheses here is a 4. So that literally tells us that, hey, x is going to be 4. It's telling us the input, if we go back to that example of inputs and outputs. So therefore, all we're going to do is take this equation, 11 minus 3x, and wherever we see an x, we're going to plug in a 4. So 3 times 4 would be 12, so we're going to get 11 minus 12, and so our output here and our answer would be negative 1. Likewise on the second one, g of negative 6. What we're going to do is we, at this point, know that, hey, x is going to be negative 6. So we're going to go ahead and take 5 times the absolute value of negative 6 plus 4. Now, negative 6 plus 4 is equivalent to negative 2, and the absolute value of negative 2 is 2. So this literally becomes 5 times 2, which we all know is 10. So our output here would be 10, and our input was negative 6 in the function machine. Let's go to the last one. I'm going to change colors over to red. Let's go to the h equation because we have h of negative 3. So here's our equation over here. So what we're going to do is we're going to plug in a value of x equals negative 3 into that equation. So we're going to take 2 times negative 3 squared plus 4 times negative 3. So let's go ahead and do the order of operations. Negative 3 squared is 9, so we get 2 times 9 plus 4 times negative 3. Let's do our multiplication next. 2 times 9 is 18. We'll leave the plus alone for now, and 4 times negative 3 is negative 12, and 18 plus minus or negative 12 is 6. So with an input of negative 3 in our function machine, we're going to get a 6 of an output. If you like what you've seen and heard so far, please like, comment, or subscribe. Thank you, and back to the show. We can also turn this around where we're not given a number in the parentheses after the function name here. So we know our function is right here, 2x minus 5, and we're going to try to figure out what happens if, when we don't know what x is, how to actually figure it out. So what happens is this is actually our output. So all we're going to do is we're going to go to this equation here, and wherever we see the g of x, we know that it's equal to 3. We're going to replace it with 3. So we're going to say 3 equals 2x minus 5. If I go ahead and add 5 and add 5, I'm going to get 8 equals 2x. And if I divide both sides by 2, I get 4. So we now know that x equals 4. Problem solved. So we knew the output was 3, and now our input would have been 4 in this case here. Let's go to another one. What if f of x equals 11, and here's our equation over here. All we're going to do is we're going to replace the f of x with 11, and we're going to say 11 equals x squared minus 14. I'm going to go ahead and add 14 on the one side, add 14 over here. 11 plus 14 is 25. And then, of course, if we were to square root both sides, what would happen is we're going to get plus or minus 5. So the answer here is either positive 5 or it's negative 5. Finally, what can happen with functions is we're actually given the graph of the function, and we're actually not given the equation itself. So you could figure out the equation here with higher level math, but there's really no need. We're just going to look at this graph over here. So it's a parabola. This curve is upside down, so it's definitely opening downward. And it says over here, we're going to find p of negative 1. So this is essentially our x value. So what we're going to do is we're going to look for any coordinates that are negative 1 comma something. So I'm going to go to x is negative 1, which is right here. And I'm going to go hunt up and down. In other words, kind of like a vertical line here. And if you'll notice, right over here, I have a point. And that one is negative 1, negative 3. So in this case here, our x is negative 1, our y is negative 3, and that's our answer. So the answer here is negative 3. If I said p of 3, this means I know that that's going to be my x value once again right here. So I'm going to go over to x is 3, 1, 2, 3, and I'm going to hunt for anything vertically that crosses through this 3. And there it is right over here. And that point would be 3 comma 5. So now my answer is 5. Then we're going to kind of turn it around here, and we don't know what x is because you can see here it says p of x. We're actually literally trying to find x. So in this case here, that number here is going to be our y coordinate. So we're going to look for anything that is something comma 6. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to go up to y equals 6 right here. That's y equals 6. I'm going to look horizontally, see if any points are on there. And there it is, right over here. And that point is 2 comma 6. So my answer here would be x equals 2. And then finally, we have another one over here. And this one is, we're going to find x. We know p of x equals 2. So once again, that is going to represent our y coordinates. So we're looking for something, comma, 2. So I'm going to go to y equals 2. Well, there's one of them right there. And you might be tempted to stop because I've already found the point. But it turns out if I go horizontally across, there's actually 2 spots where y equals 2. So one of them is at 0. So one answer is x equals 0 because that is the point 0 comma 2. Likewise, this is 4 comma 2, so my x value is 4. So there's 2 answers in this case, 0 and also 4. So just know, yeah, you're usually going to get one answer, but is it possible to have more? Yes, and that's okay. So I hope you got a lot out of this video, and I'll see you again on the next. Thanks for watching.